Hello, guys. I hope you all are doing well. This is the 9th of March 2026. Wanted to put for you a full market update when it's coming to the market and plan for this week just to see what exactly we are dealing with in regards to the market. A few things that I highlighted for you in regards to Bitcoin, and let's talk a little bit about, like, let's say the market open, where the market opened with gaps up, and gaps down, and all these kind of things. The thing that you need to understand it and to pay attention to it, that's usually the case when it's coming, like, let's say, to some major escalations, that it's coming, like, let's say, with war and all these kind of things. We saw, like, let's say, big moves that it's happening on Nikkei. We saw big moves that it's happening on Nasdaq, opening with a gap to the downside, and then after that you started seeing, like, let's say, some recoveries to the upper side, but the plan always remained the same. When you get these kind of things, you just let things settle a little bit, and when you get, like, let's say, some kind of moves, like, let's say, to um mainly, like, let's say, AG high, AG low, a break above it, and then after that you started seeing the recovery toward, like, let's say, the gap. Same thing that it happened, like, let's say, with Bitcoin. You saw, like, let's say, the drop and the move to the downside, which was like a lot of aggressive shorts. They came into this area where I marked for you, like, let's say, some of the levels to look into it in terms of the liquidity, and some of the levels that also that still we do have it here. Now, let's start with Bitcoin and see what exactly we do have, and upon that we can decide things accordingly. Now, in regards to Bitcoin, interesting behavior. Price moved to the upper side, broke above Asia high, but for now, that's where exactly you are. And I'm afraid if the price is gonna start losing momentum, so a few things, like, let's say, to look at it, will it stall here? And then after that to start losing momentum at somewhere at around these levels, then you might start just, like, dropping to the downside. Or if you started pushing still further, because the bias for now, it's still to favor, like, let's say, higher levels, if and just if we started breaking above the 69,400 level. Then in that time you will just, like, think about BTC to move to higher levels toward this area, somewhere at around these levels. Upon that, we can see if she's going to reject from here and still roll down all the way to the downside. Any acceptance above these regions, then I think by that time you will be considering BTC to move all the way, like, let's say, to the 80K region. That's pretty much, like, let's say, the play. So yeah, I put for you, like, let's say, some kind of projections for the play. We are still, like, let's say, moving into this kind of a direction. It's not really clear. I'm not taking, like, let's say, a blind bias. Whether, like, let's say, we are breaking above the ranges, then I'll take the bias and I'll move with it, like, let's say, accordingly. Logically speaking, and with the bias that I'm favoring it, I'm still expecting, like, let's say, BTC to break to the downside, despite that what you are seeing for now in terms of a move. But again, we deal with things, like, let's say, level to level, and we deal with it, like, let's say, depends on what exactly the price is giving us. Now, interesting move also that we saw it on gold with this kind of a price action. Now, the thing that you can see it that they are not really closing under this region, and they don't want just to close under this region. If we started closing under this region, then you would be accepting the idea that gold, it's going to trade toward the 4,888, maybe even lower. We will see when the time it's going to happen, but that's a kind of structure that you do have it. For now, they are holding the 400, the 500, the 5,050. I got into a small long into this, but my invalidation, it's just too clear. If I started seeing the price just losing this area, then I will be anticipating the price still to move to the downside. Keep an eye on this structure that we do have it here on gold. I think by all means, if gold started just trading first of all above these highs, then you will be expecting a move and a continuation to the upper side, but that's not the case. For now, you do have Asia low that it's printed at somewhere at around these levels, and you do have Asia high that it's here. For now, the price is trading slightly above mid of the range, just slightly above mid of the range. If you started rolling down, started trading here, and we didn't see a decent bounce from here, we started losing it, then you'd be expecting gold to start rolling over with a closing of 4 hours time frame under this level. Might even put a better direction to the downside. I still do think that we see it moving up, but by the end we are reacting to what exactly we see on the price. Now, in regards to Dixie, just to clear one thing, because I spoke to you about, like, let's say, having a bias for a long on Dixie. Look, it moved again with a gap up. We came, started now, like, we lost Asia low, which is you will be expecting the price, like, to move to lower levels. I am open to see Dixie, like, let's say, moving within these ranges for this week. It's still too choppy. Momentum, it's still good to the upper side. We swept previous week high. If I want to see something on Dixie, I don't want just to see Dixie like all over losing this cluster of consolidation. So yes, Dixie can move to the downside and still base out here with the moment that, as an example, we started seeing recovery and we started seeing it moving to the upper side, then my move, it's going to be that it's looking like, let's say, to Dixie for this kind of a move with the bias, like, let's say, and the continuation to the upper side. As I said, it's too choppy when you are looking at things, when you are looking like, let's say, at all across the board, but that's a kind of bias and that's a kind of a structure that I'm trying, like, let's say, to hold in between, you know? Um, that's pretty much like, let's say, the play, and that's pretty much the projections. Be careful with these kind of moves. As I said, like, playing it from above the 69.5 as an example, and just to play this and then from here to look into some kind of retraces, move to the upper side and the continuation, that would be even much better. But these kind of moves is just because the move that it happened on Friday, it's still not too clean, to be honest with you. It's still not too clean. We still have, like, let's say, a room still to trade above these levels. You don't want to see BTC losing the 61 region. That's the whole thing. 61, sorry, 68, 67.7 region. That's the level that you want to see BTC is holding. Still, there is a decent probability that you might see this retrace before a continuation and the move to the upper side, where you see this move hold at somewhere at around these levels. And if we started continuing to the upper side and break above these highs, then that's your play into this kind of direction and this kind of a move. Same thing that it happened, like, let's say, on oil, opening with a gap up was pretty much like, let's say, honestly expected. Pay attention on what exactly oil is gonna do. My advice to you is don't touch it for now. Maybe within tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, if you started seeing it basing out and started forming some kind of a range, then it's absolutely fine. I do think that these levels should be taken out at some stage and the gap fully to be filled. Just be careful on these kind of moves and don't really rush into anything like, let's say, major or it's just big. Still, by the way, the market is just moving into some kind of a nice direction. Still, the market is offering, like, let's say, decent opportunities and decent plays. One of the things that yesterday I was talking about it, like, let's say, with the community and the family members, is just to keep an eye on Hyperliquid, because just like, honestly, this move, it was too easy, to capture. Many of the members, like, let's say, played it and just, were looking mainly, like, let's say, for this move to the upper side. Hyperliquid, it's still strong and it provides you really beautiful, beautiful, beautiful opportunities. We traded Hyperliquid all the way to the upper side from here, started seeing some kind of a weaknesses. I remember the shorts to take it from around these levels, then it kept holding here. That's another one, just like, to play it and it's playing literally in one of the most beautiful charts that you can trade it on daily and weekly basis. So yeah, you can get your exposure on it, whether to the upper side or to the downside. Now, just something that I wanted also to highlight it for you. Look, the market is dropping into this kind of moves, but I don't think that there is something scary. These kind of moves, it's absolutely normal to see it, like, let's say, mid of the year. The market moved early into the year to the upper side, got you really nice moves, like, let's say, to the upper side, some of them 22%. Nasdaq and the S&P, they didn't really move that much. They actually deviated the previous year. And for now, in terms of a bias, yeah, you would have more of a pressure to the downside. As long as you are trading under the 6,880, I would say, region. But yeah, it's just like, if you will be looking at things, when I'm looking at just like, what exactly the price did and how exactly we are moving, there is really like a possibility, I would say, into this, that VIX still can trade, like, let's say, actually it's, I mean, it traded this level, not really fully, but that's a decent level to see the VIX, like, let's say, moving to the upper side toward it, and then maybe from there we might see, like, let's say, this, it's going to start dropping to the downside, could present like really a good buying opportunities. As for now, I'm just staying too cautious when it's coming to this, trying to play just the cleanest play, short-term play, nothing more, nothing less. Some of the guys in the family members, they longed BTC on just like the break above, like, let's say, the Asia high, capture just some kind of moves to the upper side. For me, as I said, like, staying cautious, I still do think that we might see, like, let's say, BTC at some stage trading to lower levels, but it all depends on how exactly it's reacting. Just to try not to get too much exposure on it and try just to keep your plays short and sweet. that's pretty much it for today. I don't want really, like, let's say, to give you, like, let's say, a lot of hassle. Remember, for me, even if I'm gonna be giving you, like, let's say, a bias, this bias could come within tomorrow, could come within today, but let's assume that, as an example, I would prefer to see a bias. These are AG high, AG low of Monday, and this is the mid range. If I do, as an example, give a bias, like, let's say that I'm expecting, you know the bias for this asset to move to the upper side. If it started losing the AGLO, then no, it's not the time. Maybe later on we might get something like this, and then after that to push to the upper side. But yeah, that's a kind of play. So it's still tricky for today. See how exactly the market's gonna react into tomorrow. Should be a cleaner direction, be also a cleaner play, and we'll see how exactly things it's gonna move in the coming few hours, and also within tomorrow. That's all for now. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet, and we'll catch up with you later on. One last part. I'm really sorry, I forgot to mention it. Anything that I'm talking about in this video is not a financial advice. It's just the way how exactly I do review the market. It's just on an educational purposes. Wish you all the best. Have an amazing week coming ahead. Cheers.